Call to order. Board of Trustees Business Meeting, Laramie County Community College. First item on our agenda is approval of the minutes. Hopefully all the board members, now let me, I guess, a little housekeeping, be clear on who is in attendance today. Obviously the ones here in attendance, and then Brenda is calling in, so we'll get that right, Vicki?
Yeah.
So we have 5?
We have 5.
Okay. Okay, minutes. Any questions on the minutes? Any updates? Any comments? If there are none, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved. I'd entertain a second, too.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? If none, let's vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the August 15, 2002 regular board meeting, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. I'll even use my machine here. Okay, reports to the board. LCCC reports. Student Government Association. Mr. Michael Wandrish. Michael? Yeah, right up
You got 2
at the
seconds.
podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And those that don't know me, I'm Michael Wonders, President of Student Government. This school year, 2012-2013. We had elections this fall. We had just under 20 applications to fill 4 spots. Voted those in, and we had, at the meantime, we had 1 senator resign for personal reasons. So out of that election, then we took our 5th in line and used that person then to fill our final senator seat. So all our senator seats that we had available are currently filled. We nominated and voted for College Council, which we have Gary Stacks, Mike Wyatt, and Daniel Russell. And our bridge team, we selected Aurora Menendez to sit on that council. And judicial representatives for Judicial Council, we have Stephen Becker and Gemma Wood. Our committees that we have, the food service is meeting currently with Sedesco. And, sorry. Our service council is planning humanitarian kits. Going to collect jackets and food supplies to hand out to the needy. Visibility is working on updating our current billboards around campus, so the senators' pictures are out. Diversity is working on a program to attend different events around campus to get the students involved, and then at the end of each semester, I believe they're going to do a raffle to give away a prize for the people who have attended. And elections committee is working on registering students to vote since it's an upcoming election year. And then they're also advertising a little bit more to have applications for student senators come in instead of a rush towards the election timeframes. As far as the student government as a whole, we're going to work with Melissa Gallant on the staff and faculty Halloween party / costume party that they do. And we're going to try and set up events that would coincide with that to kind of get our faces as student government leaders out there in front of the student body, make our faces more aware and let them know that we are quite accessible to them whenever they need to come to us. And that is us in a whole, all caught up to date for the start of the school year. If there are any questions?
Any questions of Michael? Okay. Thanks so much, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay, second report to the board is from Staff Senate, Kevin Yarbrough.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. Just fly through a few things real quick here for you. Obviously, you can see one of our changes over the summer on your agenda is our officer base. We've split the vice president into 2 positions between Kim Adams and Jody Wepner, and they represent their constituent groups between classified professional staff. They are also members of College Council. So we had our first reading of our new bylaws to reflect those changes last week. In addition, with bylaw changes, we are making sure we have written in there that we are responsible for, and hopefully we won't have to deal with this, but any removals or replacements to staff college council members. So we're putting that in our bylaws also. The other thing that, as Michael was addressing, this year we're doing, in the past, Staff Senate has put on a Halloween costume shindig for the staff and students and faculty to included with that. And this year it's going to be collaborated with the student government, so we're going to do that together. And more info to come on that. Another change is, I guess I would say that the current leadership for Staff Senate was unaware that we support a scholarship along with the Randy Miller Memorial Scholarship. And so we are working on some projects to create monies, which we haven't typically done too much in the past, and to put more money towards that scholarship. The first time you will see that is we've moved the normal chili soup cook-off that's held around spring break. We've moved that to the Friday before Thanksgiving break. So more to come on that. Obviously the board and all of the employees are invited to come out for that and participate, and you get to vote as usual with the change you find under your car seat and your wife's purse, and vote for the best chili and soups. But those monies will be taken to put towards the scholarship itself. So more information to come for that. Besides that, is there any questions from our recent minutes or anything I can
Any questions
pass
for
on?
Kevin? Okay, thank you so
All
much,
right.
Kevin.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, Faculty Senate, Jeff Schmidl.
All right, thank you, Chair. I don't have a lot to report tonight, but I just would like to welcome Dr. Pat. I did get a chance to visit with him. I think Senate has, everybody's expressed their appreciation of having somebody on board that has a lot of experience and a background in academics, and we're looking forward to working with him on academic issues to come. So that's really all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions over the minutes that I sent out.
Any questions? Kevin, go ahead.
I might just ask one. There was an item in there about Dean Task putting together a checklist for hires. What's that about?
Checklist for hires.
I think that was faculty senate.
Yes.
I think that's where I remember seeing it.
The only thing I can think of that we talked with Mary Ellen about, and I could look back here, was the concurrent enrollment. Faculty's going to meet with Mary Ellen and Brenda Abbott about concurrent enrollment and have a session where we can ask questions and get feedback. I'm trying to think if there's anything
No,
else.
that's
You know what I
exactly
see?
it.
Yeah, it's
That's
developing a
exactly
new
it.
hire checklist and documents regarding concurrent enrollment.
Oh, okay.
When she's talking about new hires there, it's new hires in the district to teach concurrent enrollment classes.
Yeah, I think so.
Again, still? I know it's on. I can hear me.
Okay, any questions of Jeff? Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Nice,
That
short,
was
sweet.
easy.
And next time I'm gonna ask you what your big project is. Okay, our last report to the board, LCCCEA, LCCC Education Association. Les Balsinger. Les?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a brief report too. This weekend, the WA conference, which I've never attended, is going to be held right here in sunny Cheyenne, so I'll be attending that this Saturday here at the Holiday Inn. And I also had a meeting with Dr. Pat, and we're encouraged that Joe's brought him on board, and I think it's going to be a good fit for the interim, so we're encouraged about that as well. Other than that, that's about all we have for right now.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any questions for Les? And I would be remiss, Joe, and I should have you formally introduce Dr. Pat. Can you do that for me?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is twice now that I've had something like this in my president's report in Faculty Senate.
Oh,
and
I
you
jumped
beat
on
me
you.
to the punch, but yeah, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Pat Schwartfigger. I'm getting close on that name, aren't I? I'm pretty good. Nobody else attempted it. Did you notice that? Pat comes to us from sunny Southern California. San Diego has a long history, came highly recommended from some very prominent fixtures in the community colleges, such as Dr. George Boggs. Has a very diverse background, is very inquisitive, asks the right questions, a good listener, and I think he will help us immensely in this interim between now and when we formally fill the Vice President of Academic Affairs position. So, Pat, welcome. Thank you. We look forward to working with you over the next few months.
It's good to be here, and I'm enjoying talking with everyone, and I'll help as much as I can.
Thank you.
Sorry, Joe, I had to jump the gun, but they just kept referring to Dr. Pat, and I said, we better introduce Dr. Pat, so. Okay, I'm gonna open it up for any public comment on reports to the board. Anybody got any public comments on that topic? Okay, if none, let's move forward. President's reports. Dr. Joe Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I will be brief. The first one, I'm actually going to ask Vice President Carol Hoagland to give you an update on where we're standing in regards to the reissuance or the refinancing of the bonds that are funding the Albany County campus. As you recall, you gave us the go-ahead to start working with the foundation and the LCCC Building Authority to start transitioning and refinancing those bonds, moving that debt from the foundation to the building authority. And so I asked Carol to give us an update of where we're at and what the timeline might be on that process. Carol?
Okay, thank you, Chairman Thomas and trustees. It is actually going very well. Our financial advisor, you'll recall, is Dan Baxter of Kaiser and Company, and they are working to privately place these bonds. They are very close to having that completely done, and we believe that they're far enough along that we can go ahead and start the legal paperwork on that. And Mr. Baxter would like to come to our October study session to give you an update about where that all got placed and the process. But as I understand it, the role of this board will be to sign a lease agreement with the building authority that will pledge the funding to pay the bonds off. And the closing on that is scheduled right now for November 6th. And we will only need just the board chair or his designee to sign that lease agreement. And they are placing it with banks around the town. First National Bank or First Interstate Bank, excuse me, has expressed an interest, and Wyoming Bank and Trust has also. And so they've placed about $2 million of the $2.8 million up to date. Do you have any questions on that?
Any questions regarding, I think it's a good move, and hopefully Dan will give us a little summary of the transaction.
Yes,
Because I
he will,
believe one of the
right.
main reasons is that we're able to get some favorable rates.
Right, and
On the
right now we
remainder
are
of the
getting
debt.
the rates that we were hoping to get, and then they will codify all that in legal paperwork.
Okay.
But he wanted to be
And
sure
then I
that
guess
we
the
were
other main objective was to move that asset over to the building authority, so.
correct.
Okay, great. Appreciate your efforts on that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Carol. Then just briefly in that vein, a quick facilities update. As you see later on in your agenda, I'll be asking you to consider and take action on the approval of the updated Level 1 plan. Once you've done that, we will notify Construction Management Division at the state, and we'll move right into Level 2 planning for the University Student Center building here. So that's moving along well. The Joint Planning Committee for the expansion of the Albany County campus on the UW campus has now met, Lynn, what, 3 times? 3 times, and are really starting to build steam. I had the opportunity to call in and participate in one of their initial meetings, as did President Buchanan from the university. And I'm feeling pretty good about where we're going with that planning process. The university has been a very, very gracious partner and is interested in developing a facility that truly will help us better serve our students in Laramie. And so I think that process is going quite well. So then the other quick update, we are just starting the process for the Level 1 planning for the Flex Tech building. So that will hit the ground running here in no time. In fact, I believe we have our first meeting next week. So we are moving on these projects, and we're trying to stay ahead of, or at least keep the timeline that's in your Building Forward Facilities Plan, and I think we're making good progress. Then one last thing, I just wanted to give a real brief overview. I know there'll probably be some conversation about the second annual Summit on Community Colleges in Casper yesterday, but on Monday, a handful of trustees, the commissioners, as well as the presidents from the Wyoming community colleges met and started the conversation regarding updating the commission's strategic plan. And I actually think that conversation was facilitated quite well. Commissioner Larry Atwell and Dr. Jim Rose put together a facilitation of that, and we had some good conversation about how we should focus their strategic plan, make it easier for trustees and for the campuses to implement their own strategic plans in alignment with that. And I think the conversation really led us in the right direction in terms of giving us focus. It was a good precursor to the summit, which happened yesterday, and there seems to be a building interest to develop at least some level of shared policy goals or plan goals across the commission and the colleges focused on student success, completion, and finding ways to address the major initiatives for increased productivity, output, and quality within our higher education institutions across the nation. So my job was to come back and start facilitating conversations with people on campus, with you as trustees, and with other folks to flesh out and get an idea about where you see and believe the commission's role should be and the campus's role should be in regards to updating their strategic plan and helping set that agenda for the state of Wyoming. And so we'll be doing that. I will, with your permission, hopefully put some of this on a future study session, as well as informal conversations as well. But it was a good event. I was actually quite pleased with the turnout of that conversation, and especially in light of the activities associated with the summit, which we'll talk about here later. And that, Mr. Chairman, is my report.
Where are we going to talk about the summit?
Underneath board reports, item
Oh,
B.
okay. Okay, fine. Because I do want to talk about it, so. Okay, any public comment on, oh, go ahead, Kevin.
Question.
Yeah.
Does the resignation of Tom Buchanan have any impact on our building in Albany County?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Kilty, it's a good question. It's one that many of us, I think, have at least thought whether or not we've aired it. There was concern because he has been a very significant proponent of community college partnerships, and specifically this partnership over there. I had a conversation with Mike Massey and a few other UW folks here recently. By the way, President Buchanan has asked to come and actually come to our meeting at the business meeting in December, and would like to have a conversation with the trustees to get caught up to speed, talk about some of these things. But what I've been assured or reassured is that his direction to continue these processes, his involvement in the planning and setting the stage for this, suggests that once he does leave in about a year, that we'll have that support and at least the momentum behind the projects.
Any other questions for President? Any public comments on President's reports? If none, we'll move on to board reports. Our first board report, Finance Facilities Committee. Which direction? Kevin, go ahead.
I'll try to make this fairly brief. We had our meeting on the morning of September 4th, I think it was. And beyond the pro forma items that are on the agenda just all the time, we wanted to talk about some items dealing with the budget process and also documents to make the budget more transparent to the public. And we had I think a very productive meeting, and I brought up, I think, 3 items with regard to process that I thought were important, and Ed can correct me if there were some others. But one is that we wanted to guarantee that the budget is really driven from below by the people who are closest to operations and know what they need to get things done. And also that it be very transparent to people who make budget requests, that their requests are actually rising up through the system, and if they're rejected at some point, an explanation of why, and so forth, so that people aren't just left hanging. We also talked about the Budget Advisory Committee. As you know, there are a number of people who complain on the Budget Advisory Committee, and we just want to make sure that they understand their charge very well, and they have every opportunity to see and comment on process. And finally, with regard to these documents in the library, I had gone to the library one day and I said, just show me all the documents that deal with the budget. And they showed me the documents, and it was really it was pretty thin. It was pretty skinny. There was not much there, and I was really disappointed in what I saw. So I wanted to make sure that a budget detail is on display in the library so that people can look at a budget detail, not just the consolidated budget that we look at here and vote on, but the real details that back that up. And Carol Hoagland really threw me for a loop. She agreed that everything that I had talked about was really supposed to be part of the process, and that those documents, by gosh, were supposed to be in the library. So what we decided, this threw me off for a bit. You know, I'm used to fighting with people, so people agreeing with me, I don't know how to handle that. Anyway, what we talked about is that this is just a matter of some education and some outreach. And Carol said that they would try to do a more thorough job of educating people early on and get them involved in the budget process and make sure that the library knew what documents they were supposed to have and so forth. But I'd gone into the library and asked specifically for this document, and they were puzzled about what I was requesting. So, you know, I thought that was a very productive meeting, and I thought if things work like they're supposed to, it'll be a much better budget process going forward. So that's my report.
Okay. Ed, anything to add, or?
No, Kevin did a
Okay.
great job.
Okay. All right, very good. Any questions of Facilities and Finance Committee? If none, let's roll on to the next board report, which I'll probably give a little a piece of it at least, which is College Communications and Relations. Bill, do you have anything to report? No. Okay. I will let you know, and I don't know if you got the email today or not, but the board evaluations we'll be online here, I don't know, I'll have to read the email, but for a week and so on. Pretty much the same type of process we did with the president. So I appreciate everybody participating and completing those. And our plan is to have a first swipe of those at our study session in October. And we'll see if we talk about them some more at our regular business meeting. So, okay, Brenda, whoops, we're not to Brenda yet. Any other questions on college communications and facilities? We have been focusing on getting our evaluations and so on done. So, looks like that's going to happen here quickly. Any other questions? College communications? Okay, let me move on to governance. Brenda, do you want to take this, or?
Yeah, you bet. I can
Okay.
take it, Greg.
Go ahead.
We have a finished product for you this evening that we are going to be voting on, and that is the beginnings of a new governance policy or a set of governance policies. We're just calling them the LCCC governance policies, and they will be showing up later in our agenda. We are very pleased and proud to be making this wonderful progress and moving forward for the college.
Great. And we went through those at our last session, and looking forward to chatting about them again and taking action. So, Brenda, we appreciate yours and John's and Dr. Joe's efforts. So, thank you so much. Any questions on?
It was our pleasure.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Any other questions on the governance committee? Okay, there it is. So let's chat a little bit about the Community College Summit. Bill Du Bois, myself, a variety of folks from the college attended yesterday in Casper. I got Ed up to speed, what, in about 10 minutes today?
Yes.
Yeah, so, Joe, I'll kind of let you go first, and then I am going to have some comments to say, because it was one of the few meetings that I really got something out of, in the morning especially, so. Go ahead, Joe.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Real briefly, I alluded to it earlier. Yesterday was the second annual Summit on Wyoming Community Colleges. It was put on by the Wyoming Association of Community College Trustees. It was a day-long event focused on the theme of college completion. I believe is really the gist of what we were talking about. The summit structure brought in individuals from across the nation who are focused on either promising practices or driving initiatives beyond completion. The keynote address was kicked off by a gentleman named Stan Jones, who is the CEO of Complete College America. They are an initiative funded by many of the big foundations, Lumina, Gates, and some of the other, the Carnegie Foundation. And their focus is really on helping drive higher education to shift from a mindset of access to completion. And I think he gave a pretty good opening presentation identifying some of the primary issues that students are struggling with in regards to completion. And they're things that aren't not a surprise to any of us. Remediation, too extensive time to degree, lack of participation, dropout, all of those things. And I actually thought that it was a pretty eye-opening conversation. From there, we heard from folks who have promising practices in the redesign of developmental education, folks who have structured programs that are more aligned and in tune with completion, that perhaps are a little bit more directed for students. And we heard about decreasing time to degree, promising practices, but in general had a common theme going on about fundamental change that needs to happen within higher education if we want to truly focus on helping students succeed versus just having them be able to come to college. And I think I like the statement from Dr. David Longenecker, who's the CEO of WICHE, the Western Interstate Commission on Higher Education, and he said, many of our students are living the dream, but very few of them are achieving the dream. And I thought that was actually pretty appropriate because access is something the U.S. has done very well. And people walking through our doors, nobody in the United States should be able to claim anymore that they don't have access or opportunity to higher education. But getting in the door is just a very, very small piece of it. And so I think the genesis of all of those conversations was how do we shift our mindset to now think about helping them out of the door. So I thought it was a good conversation. I have a list of things that I hope to discuss and roll out with different groups on campus. In fact, I think I commandeered most of the faculty senate time today talking a little bit about it, and I know I bent Trustee Mosier's ear about it. There's some good things, and there's things that we're already moving in the direction of. So I think the timing is appropriate for us as an institution and as a state, and I found it very beneficial.
Yeah. Okay. Bill, I'll give you an opportunity before I take the stand.
Well, one thing I thought was very interesting was that they did constantly mention how counseling of young people coming into the school was extremely important. And they were talking about how in a lot of schools there's like 400 people under like one person. Well, there's no way they can counsel 400 people and get them in the right places. A second thing that I found very interesting was that you shouldn't offer kids so many choices. That if you focus them into a program and into a situation, they shouldn't have 25 alternatives to go to. That's what makes a lot of them get mixed up and get into things that they really don't need. And then the guy, I think it was the middle one, said something about that we need to get these kids having a certificate, a diploma, or whatever you want to call it, because he said a lot of them, they get a year and then these industries hire them out and we've seen this in our wind programs and others here where they hire them out. But he said down the road, these jobs won't be permanent and then they won't have this, in quotes, piece of paper to show that they actually finished their degree or finished what they started. And I thought that was very interesting to think about the fact that we've got to talk these kids into realizing that finishing is very important.
Very good comments. Jeez. I have a few comments, and I'm just going to lay it on you of what my biggest impression was. And Joe and I talked a little bit about, again, I'm not one to bite off more than you can chew, but I definitely think that there are some areas that we can start working on right away, and maybe that's what your conversation with Faculty Senate was today. So here's the things that I took away. Number one is structure, and Bill mentioned that. I do think we've gotten ourselves in situations where maybe we have too many offerings. Maybe we don't give them more structure. I have the gut feeling they probably want some structure. One of the things that they talked about is this length of completion, and the quicker you can get them focused and get them through the coursework, the better off your completion is going to be. So that's going to get facilitated by structure. So I'm very much a proponent of that. This other was a concept of what was called co-requisites rather than prerequisites, and it has to do with remediation and remedial classes. It was a gentleman from Baltimore County. He was an English writing instructor, and he put on a very good little talk on how they have accomplished basically doing away with quote-unquote remedial classes through this co-requisite process. What it really means, and I'll give my little analogy that I gave to Joe. When you take the class, I'll just take a number, English 101. People will take a test, assessment tests, see if you can qualify for English 101. If you don't, currently we put them into a remedial class. I don't believe they get college credit for that. So they don't get college credit for that. One of the things that they talked about quite extensively was just the discouraging environment that it creates with that kid right when he's first coming right into school. Doesn't feel successful. I'm not really in the college class, etc. So how this College of Baltimore has tackled that is they have an item called co-requisites, and what it means is you're in English 101, but if you're not quite up to speed, you got to do some extra work. Really not a new concept, it's how you deliver it. But it looks like they've done that very successfully, and I would like to see us take a look at that probably for a math, and I asked you what would be one of the areas that we could do that right away. Does a couple things. One, it does great things for the psyche. The kid is in school. The kid is earning college credit. He is not looked at as being different. Secondly, it will probably take some adjustment on the delivery. And might make it, I don't know, tougher or whatever, maybe more interesting to the faculty. But what it really does mean is you got to do that extra work. I liken it to, I can remember when I was 10 years old and played Little League Baseball, there's a few kids that didn't play the couple of years before. So you're on the team. You need to work a little bit harder because the other kid's got 2 more years of experience. You get to wear the uniform, you get to, and guess what? You can play if you put in that extra work. And so that's the concept behind co-requisite, and I would really like to see us take a step towards looking at that. And I think that, so again, and so the concept also is that if they can get success early and you push them through the structured programs, we're going to get completion. And then lastly, I'll just kind of reiterate too, is the number of choices that are out there. And that's probably, and Ed, we've been talking about quality of education, and our programs here, and are trying to get a little bit more focused in on the academic side. And I think that's definitely something for us to take a look at. Maybe we can simplify our menu items and not have a 15-page menu, but a 5-page menu. So those are my comments on the summit yesterday. I did find it very helpful and so on. So any other questions, comments on President's reports? Yes, Butch.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it belongs here in the board reports or not, but has there been any activity on the BOCES pursuing that?
Are we going to talk about that?
Is that in the latter part of
I can tell you, our last study session was spent, most of the time was on concurrent enrollment, and the funding mechanism for that is, I don't know if it's BOCES or BOCES. You'll keep me on the straight path of whichever that is. And really, what college is doing, and you'll have to help me with all the nomenclature here, Joe, but we are going to get accredited with the Concurrent Enrollment Association, which does have requirements. And we will also take a look at how we fund that. So both of those are in gear, and I guess my comments were, let's make it happen as quickly as we can. And so... And it will involve Albany County High School, not Laramie County High School, Laramie High School, and any other high school in that district, and so on. So And Joe,
I-
maybe you can speak to that a little bit more. Go ahead, Bill.
Let me just ask this question. I read in the paper this morning that we're having a meeting Monday afternoon. Is that for everybody? Or,
Yeah.
it's not on our agenda or anything.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Butch, to your question specifically, so Mary Ellen Tass set up a meeting that she had offered when we had the presentation on concurrent enrollment at your last study session. So Monday at 3:30, and Vicki, I think I'm right, I'm looking at my calendar here. We sent invites out to the trustees and executive staff of all three school districts, Laramie County School District 1 and 2, Albany County School District, our trustees and our staff, and we'll be having a information session by a gal who I believe, stand help me out, runs the Fremont. Sandy Barton? Correct. So that will be just an information session for us to ask questions, find out how they're established, how other counties, districts are using them, the types of programming they could do, the process for going through the steps in the establishment. Lynn has that invitation as information, and Lynn, you may want to send it out to your advisory board if there are folks that are interested in coming over for that. It's certainly open to it. Great, yeah.
Did we answer your question, Butch? Okay. Okay, any public comment on board reports? Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a question as far as the focus on the academic side? Does that mean that you're going to be looking at eliminating some of the technical trades like your ground mechanics and such, or is it you're going to be also working with the Rotary?
Could you go up to the podium and, sorry.
My question is will the technical trades still be part of the curriculum here at LCCC as well? I know that in the construction trades that we have a real hard time getting certified people to work in some of these trade areas. And although it's not considered an academic, it's more of a technical type training. It would be great if we could continue that training and help feed into our construction trades.
Okay. I'm going to give you a very quick answer, and I'm going to turn it over to President Joe. The quick answer is there are no plans that I am aware of us cutting any programs. In fact, we are trying to get ourselves in a position to be able to provide more programs. One of the reasons for the working on this, what we call the Flex Tech facility. We have, you're right, we had a welding program, we don't have it anymore. We had a construction trades program, we don't have it anymore. We've given up that room to other areas, and now it's a problem. And we do understand that there are folks that need these kind of employees, and we need to be able to provide those services. So that's really from me as the board chair, but I do believe that kind of permeates throughout the board. And Joe, maybe you can add some specifics to that.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I don't know that I need to add a whole lot. We have two predominant academic missions within the community college, one being transfer and one being workforce development. Workforce development spans all of the opportunities from our short non-credit certification courses that lead to employment to our applied associate degrees. And I would not only concur with your comments, but also applaud them in saying that we could actually be doing more in some of these areas.
So that's where we are right now, but thank you for the question, we appreciate that. Okay, board reports are done, and we will move forward. Hopefully this isn't farewell forever, Wally.
I don't like that name.
No, Vicki wrote that in
It's
there.
okay.
It's more like thank you. It's a more like thank you, and I'm sad that let's see, we got
You're not
here.
going to get a gold watch if that's what you're expecting.
Yeah. But Bailey Stock and Harmon has been our legal counsel since 1966. No, 96. And
Before the college.
yeah, really. Since 1996, I didn't realize that we had been partners that long, and we have gone through another process of looking at another legal firm, and we are kind of moving on to another legal firm. And we wanted to take some time and say thank you so much for your guys' efforts through and we've gone through some interesting times here, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. And Wally skipped out a little bit on that, but got caught up really quick. We got caught up really quick, and I know Lance did a heck of a lot of work. So we've got a few things for you, and and I'm sure that you'll take these back. Come on up here, Wally. Give a little hand. I'm gonna open it up because I've never seen one of these before. Well, I might have seen it from a distance. But it's pretty fancy. I said, get something fancy, Lisa. You know, don't just throw a coin at them. That's what I thought we were going to do, just flip a coin and say, here, Wally, thanks. But what we've got is we've got some commemorative coins from Laramie County Community College in a nice little box and all that good stuff. I've got one for Lance and I've got one for Hank. And so as a small token of our appreciation for all the great work that you guys have done and so on. I took your bag out. I need that. Then also, let's see where this came from. This came from the President's Cabinet. I didn't see it when I walked in, but now I do. But they got a little plant for your office.
I'll bet you didn't take that.
That will probably, you know, brighten it up a little bit. But make sure that you take that. But that came from the President's Cabinet. So thank you so much for your efforts. And
Thank you very much. Can I make a quick comment?
absolutely.
I didn't know it was 1996, but driving out here, I started thinking, it's been a long time. And I remember when I was in my office and saw the notice of hiring, and I told Hank, Lance over with, I said, you know what, I'm gonna apply for that job. We can get that job. So we applied and I interviewed, and since then, 1996, I've been coming out here every Wednesday, every other Wednesday since that time, until June of 2007, when Jen and I packed our bags and went to England for 3 years, and that's when things fell apart. And Lance took care of it for 3 years, and then I came back and assisted Lance. But it has been a wonderful experience. And more than the legal representation, although we enjoy that, it's been a wonderful opportunity to have so many friends. Because really, when it comes down to it, it's about relationships. It's about taking care of each other and doing what you need to do to make things better. And I think this board's wonderful. We've enjoyed every board we've worked for. Got lots of great friends. And I'm going to miss the hugs from all the pretty girls when I come out here. But it's been a wonderful time. It's a great college. And I think President Joe's he'll do a wonderful job. And so thank you very much. It's not a farewell. We're just moving on. And congratulations to the Gay Woodhouse firm. We have no problem with you hiring somebody else. We're not offended. That's just the way life is, and we hope that they have a great relationship with you like we have. So thank you very much.
Wally, thank you again.
Thank you. God bless you.
Does anybody have a handkerchief? No. Roz didn't hear that one.
Greg,
Yeah. Yes.
Greg, this is Brenda.
Yes, Brenda.
Is Lance there this evening?
No, he's not. Just Wally.
You can say good things to me, too.
Okay.
Okay.
No, just kidding.
Well, Wally, would you please give Lance my personal thanks for all the tireless work and conversations that he had with me while I was board chair. And we were going through some difficult situations, and Lance was always just a phone call away and helped me think through a lot of things. And would you please give him my personal thanks and affection?
I will be happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks,
Hey,
Brenda.
thanks.
You bet.
Okay, item number 7, which is lengthy. We have a variety of approval items, and hopefully can move through them effectively. So I'm going
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of all of them.
Oh, you know what, Bill? I'm not going to let you do that. Mainly because I do want people to know what we're doing here, because this is the culmination of lots of work we've been doing over the last 3 or 4 months, and so I kind of want to talk about them a little bit, just to kind of recognize the fact that we've got a lot done, and I'm very proud of the board and the administration and everybody here that's participated. So let me start out with A, approval of University Student Center Level 1 plan. My quick comments on that is we looked at that extensively in the last meeting. Took a variety of comments. I don't know if anything else came back on that. And Joe, fill us in on anything else.
No, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's, nothing's changed. We had a good conversation. I believe you received an update from both Stefan Pappas, the architect, or the gentleman helping us with the plan, as well as the facilities director, Tim McNamara. The plan is an update to the level 1 study that we did back in 2008-ish, and I think it's ready to go on to construction management. We're ready to move to level 2.
Okay. Okay, I'm looking for
Mr. Chairman.
yes.
I move that we approve the level 1 plan update and direct the president to continue into level 2.
Okay.
Second that.
Okay, I got a second with Ed. He beat you. Bill?
Okay.
Any discussion on the level 1 plan? And I will tell you that the process is the level 1 plan will go to level 2. We have funded, and I believe that we have the funding for level 2. We've bellied up to the bar and are going to fund the level 2 portion of the plan, which will be, well, you'll tell us about it when you get into it, I guess. But our expectations are to move very rapidly and as quickly as we can. So I appreciate the efforts there. Any other discussion regarding the motion? If none, let's take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Vicky, passes unanimously. I will open at any public comment on any one of these motions. Probably ought to take that before we vote, so I'll remind me to do that. Item number 2, approval of fiscal year 2013 board priorities. I am going to get mine out here. This is part of our efforts on the budgeting process to give guidance to the folks developing the budget as what we think are priorities, and we needed to get this done early in the year. I know we've been thinking about it for a while. We formalized it in August and now are here. I won't read through those. I guess I will read through the topics very quickly. Invest in instruction, progress on the building forward facilities plan, invest in student services, continue to stabilize the college through reorganization, etc., and update our strategic plan. So those are our priorities that we are going to charge the administration and the rest of the college in the development of this current year budget. So I would like to get a motion to
So
approve
move.
our priorities. Okay, I've got a motion.
Second.
Okay, got a second. Any discussion? Any
Mr.
discussion?
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to say that when we look at these, and I spoke with Dr. Schaefer earlier today, and people look at these, might consider them to be too broad and not really measurable. But as you look at instructional effectiveness and quality, and then you dig deeper in terms of looking at our performance indicators and efficiency indicators that have been developed, Dr. Schaefer shared with me how those can be used then to really see if we're moving forward on this, and it will help us set the budget. So as indicated, that budget process is critical to us because we'll know whether we're moving toward achievement of these goals or not. And I really look forward to seeing us assess this as we move forward.
I agree with you, and I will make a comment, and we chatted about this at our the study session, that these really are kind of a one-year focus. Now, I will say that some of the activities involved are not 1 year, but we are saying to the administration and the rest of the college, these are things that we would like to see priorities this year in this budget as you put it together, and with the end result of putting the proper resources in. We are not here to micromanage, and we know that. That's not our job, but we are here to give guidance, and so I think this does a great job, and it's really the first time on my term on the board that we have publicly stated these, so I'm happy to do that. So any other comments? If none, let's go to the vote. All those in favor of approving our fiscal 2013 board priorities, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you very much, so. Okay, item C. Acceptance of President Schaefer's fiscal year 2013 personal goals. Quick background on that is we are hoping and praying that these are in sync with our board priorities, and I think we went and beat that horse with a stick, making sure that they are in sync. Dr. Schaefer has given us his personal goals, of which many are relate directly to our priorities, and we discussed these at our last study session. So I would be looking for, and again, what we're trying to do is, publicly let people know what we're up to, and this is the mechanism to do that. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
I move that the board accept the president's personal goals for fiscal
I
year
second.
2013.
Okay, Ed, I got a second. Okay, any other discussion? I got Kevin and Ed with a second.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just
Yes,
like
sir.
to say that these goals that Dr. Schaefer has and that the goals that we put together came in very handy to me when I was interviewing the editorial board of the Eagle Tribune,
Very good.
because it told me exactly what we were going to
Hopefully
do.
educated them some.
So
It came
thank
in
you.
handy for me too, Bill. Any public comment before we vote? I'd like to hear it if there is any. If not, let's take the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay. President Schaefer's personal goals are approved, accepted. Accepted is the right word. Okay, item D, not as sexy, is approval of amendment to President Schaefer's contract. Quick background. Joe said, hey, I've got my own car and I can drive my own car, and the college can use my car for other uses. And we said, you know what, Joe, that's a good idea. So we put together a little one-page amendment. Let's see, where did that go? To Joe's contract to accommodate that. If you want to see it,
Mr. Chairman.
you can see it. Yes, sir.
I move that we approve that amendment to the contract.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Bill got a second on that one. Okay, any other discussion? Any other discussion? If not,
I
let's-
told Dr. Schaefer yesterday it was a done deal, so I hope we all vote yes.
Yes? Yes?
He's violating board policy.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go to the vote. So all those in favor of approving the amendment to President Schaefer's contract, please say aye.
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 I,
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, item E, approval of amendment to fiscal year 13 college budget. We do need a little talking to on this, and Carol, it looks like you're going to do that, so talk to us about it.
Okay, Chairman Thomas, trustees, thank you. Each year, at the beginning of the fiscal year, there is what we call a recapture redistribution process that the commission carries out, and it becomes part of our funding formula. What we do is each of the colleges estimates what the property tax assessment will be for the next year, and they do the formula calculation on that. And if you'll recall, it all goes into a central funding pot, and then it's redistributed back through the colleges based on the parts of the formula, but pretty much based on FTE. That calculation was done this year, and through that we actually yielded an additional $560,046. Our recommendation to you is that we put this into a contingency reserve to help us offset the potential cuts that will be coming down from the legislature, either the 4% or the 8%, whatever that ends up being. Any questions on that?
Any questions?
Mr.
Yes, Ed.
Chairman, if we put this into this reserve, if we were to move it out of there, if it's to be used for any other purposes, this board would have to be voting on that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so let me get a little clarification. So this will be part of the funds, revenues that you will look at in developing your budget for next year?
No, that's for the current year. This is
Oh.
for this year. For the fiscal year 12-13.
Okay, that's
So it's a change to the budget that you approved in July.
Correct. But by the fact that we put it in a contingency reserve account, our plans are not to spend it this year. It is to be used
Correct.
in the future.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to get clarified.
Yes, that you
on.
are indeed
Okay.
correct.
And if we want to use it for something else, again, we're gonna have to specifically say that we need to do that. Okay, Kevin?
And just let me clarify, is there a dollar limit on what the board has to approve, or is that $1?
I would leave that open to you right now. The policy governance indicates that anything that's over 30,000 that you have not previously approved comes back to you. If you would like to change that amount for this particular pot of money, we'll be happy to accommodate that.
Any other questions, clarifications?
Mr.
Yes, Joe.
Chairman, just a quick bit of background. So one of the reasons I asked Carol to do this is really in regards to comments made over past practice. So we have typically brought budget amendments to you towards the end of the fiscal year. And even though we have some of the estimates and the information earlier, such as this one, we've held that off. And over the course of the year, we've done stuff with that money. Good stuff. I mean, things that they're right to be done, but we've done things with that money. It seemed that you had an interest as a board, and I would concur with this interest, that when we know there are significant changes to the current fiscal year budget, that we bring amendment to you as soon as we're able to. And so now that we have an idea of what the recapture redistribution will equate to in regards to those funds in this fiscal year's budget, we brought those forward. Our recommendation is that we put those into contingency reserve because of the uncertainty of the legislature. And I am certainly happy to work with you that if we have projects or things we would like to use these funds for, should the legislature decide not to provide, to give us those reductions, we're certainly happy to bring that forward to you and say, here are some planned activities with those funds, or if they could carry over in fund balance towards the next fiscal year.
Good.
Correct.
Wow, I've been educated, but I appreciate that, Joe, and I remember talking about that and scratching my head going, why don't you let us know when we know about it? So we're doing that, so I appreciate that. Okay, I'm looking for I don't think I got a motion on this yet.
So moved.
Okay, so I've got a motion to approve the
Second.
budget. Got a second from Kevin. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? If not, let's take the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thanks, and thanks for your efforts and keeping us apprised and so on. And I think it's a great idea that we put it away for now. So.
Thank you.
Okay, item F, approval to enter a contract for legal services. President Joe, please enlighten us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. One of the great things about having microphones is sometimes you can commandeer them for some personal statements. I just want to say, Wally, on behalf of the college and all of the staff here, thanks to you, Hank and Lance, for everything you've done for the institution. We sure appreciate your service, and I appreciate the new friendship, and hopefully we can carry that into the future.
Likewise, thank you.
That said, Mr. Chairman, we have gone through a process. Many of the trustees participated in that process of competing for legal services for the college. We have entered into and have reached successful negotiations with the firm of Woodhouse and Roden. That contract is part of your materials today. The total amount of that contract on an annual basis is $58,800 for their retainer. It does have provisions for special projects that you or the college may ask them to do and requiring the bidding out of those services. But because of the amount and because of the relationship, we have brought this forward to you to take formal action on. And the action that we are asking to do is simply approve this and direct me to, or delegate the authority for me to enter into the contract on behalf of you as the board with Woodhouse Roden.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that the board accept the staff recommendation on this employment of legal services.
Okay,
I'll second that one.
got a second. Okay, any other discussion? So Joe, you can sign the contract then?
With your permission, yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I was just looking to see what kind of administrative hoops we had to go through, but none, so. Okay, any other discussion? Discussion? Okay, if not, let's take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, item G, we're almost there. Approval of board governance policies and adoption of a new governance model. Brenda, I'm going to throw the floor back to you if you heard what I said, and see if you got any opening comments and so on.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the policy committee is very pleased to present to the board our new policy governance model that we intend to replace. I'm sorry, the new governance model that we intend to replace the current policy governance model. We believe that it's time for the college to move forward and have a governance model that's a hybrid of a traditional model plus parts of policy governance, plus parts of policy that just fit Laramie County Community College and the culture of Laramie County and our beloved college. We see this as a step forward into the future. We've worked hard on the policy governance model. We believe it fits us. We believe it fits our relationship with our president, and we present it to you, Mr. Chair, for board approval.
Okay. Joe, you obviously went up to the podium for a reason, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was my subtlety coming up
Gotcha.
here. Just wanted to point out, and Brenda, I believe you can see this on your computer, iPad, or whatever device you have with you, as a physical representation of the transition that we're asking you to do tonight, and moving towards, we're installing a mouse. We've created, this is a first working draft or beta of the new online LCCC Policy and Procedures Manual. This will be your policy manual. And what we have here is a beta version, if you will, of what this manual may look like or will look like when we get it all up and running. This will be the place where we will consolidate, provide, communicate, disseminate, and house your board policies, as well as the college's administrative procedures. Moving towards the online environment, and through this process, we will actually provide a much more cohesive and centralized repository of these types of documents that I believe will help the institution as well as you as trustees to move forward. This is still a beta version. The URL to it is policies.lccc.wi.edu. As we progress in this transition, this is where we will be working, adding policies, procedures, going through, and this will be the resource for you as trustees to review policies that are under consideration, for the campus to look at procedures under consideration, so on and so forth. I hope all of you have had a chance to at least look at it. Tonight, as Trustee Little has suggested, really what we're looking at and what you'll be taking action on is Chapter 1 of this Policy and Procedures Manual, those dealing with your governance. There's 3 sections, policies about the college, the district, policies that are yours as the Board of Trustees, and then policies pertaining to the Chief Executive Officer of the institution or the President. You went through these at your study session. As Trustee Little said, there have been a few changes based on the conversation and comments, but we believe they are ready for you to take action on it. And so the staff's recommendation, and Brenda, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I believe the members of the governance committee of the board is that you approve the policies associated with Chapter 1 under governance, and formally make the shift from
That's
policy
correct,
governance.
Joe.
Okay. All right, I'm looking for a motion.
So move.
Okay, so I've got a motion.
I'll second.
That was a tie, you choose. Ed. Okay. Again, I appreciate the efforts here. We spent a great deal of time at this, at our last meeting, and quite frankly, have been thinking about a variety of things, I think, Joe, since you came on board and even before. So it is a culmination of a lot of thought, and appreciate you guys getting it down on paper and screen or in data form. Any other comments? Questions? Yes, Ed.
I really do appreciate the part that speaks to shared governance. That was something that for a number of years we had some issues with, and I think this movement forward and with the direction of Dr. Schaefer on that, and the committee working on that, I really think this is a momentous step for us.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. Kevin?
This is more specific. It goes to policy 1.2.1, which is Code of Ethics Standards of Practice. It looks a little different than things did in policy governance, but I just wanted to make a few comments with regard to this. It says that the Board of Trustees of Laramie County Community College will govern lawfully with an emphasis on, in parts 1, outward vision rather than internal operations, and part 3, strategic leadership rather than administrative detail. I don't know what people mean by emphasis. I think that's probably pretty vague. Does it mean 51% or 50% plus an iota or something like that? But I think, you know, what I don't want to do is get into arguments over looking at internal operations and administrative detail at time. I don't think that it's possible for a Board of Trustees to actually discharge its duties if we try to look at outward vision and govern from 30,000 feet and all of the other euphemisms that go along with keeping the board out of the college's business. And at times, I am simply going to get in there and I'm going to ask questions that will probably annoy people. And I don't want emphasis on outward vision to become a sticking point about answering questions or having some patience with board members that insist that we ask enough questions that the public realize that the college is meeting their expectations.
Kevin, very well said. I strongly agree with you on that. We do have a great obligation to our constituency, and part of that obligation is understanding what's going on, and so.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Trustee Kilty, for what it's worth, and again, you know, with this language and the good hard work of Trustee Little, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but certainly your comments are heard and well taken, and I believe that it would be impossible for you to be focused on and responsive to the outward expectations of the constituents that elected you without asking questions of how the operations of the campus are working. In fact, the fundamental components of policies and procedures is that you set policy, and we, through procedures, articulate and illustrate the way we will conduct our business to make sure we're meeting your policy. So asking questions to see if our actions are meeting your expectations that you translate from the outward community, I think those are appropriate roles of a trustee.
And I want to reiterate what Joe said. We thought a lot about Kevin's exact question when we were working through the new governance model. And what we're hoping is to bridge the gap between the trustees really knowing what's going on at the college and having that inform our visionary decisions. So Kevin, I don't think it's our vision that the board not be involved in the business of the college. There's a difference between the business and the day-to-day management. But we do need to know the business of the college so that we can make the proper decisions for the college. And I think I believe that this model brings that to us.
Very good. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say that I think this is a great job. These read very well. It's concise. I think it's very clear. I think there are still ambiguities in here where people can argue over things, but that's probably always true. And I just think it's been a great effort, and I really appreciate getting away from policy governance. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, do we have motions on the floor? I think we do. Okay. I'm going to take any public comment, since this is a very important thing. If there is any public comment. And I will reiterate, yes, ma'am. Why don't you go up to the podium? Misty Heil, right?
Yes,
Okay,
that would be
I'm
me.
sorry.
Thank
I
you.
should have introduced you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Board. I just want to say from a public perspective and from a previous student perspective that I'm very excited about this new model. I'm very excited about the opportunity that this brings, the healing that this brings to the campus, and ultimately the opportunity to really move forward with a lot of these goals that we have. And so I just really want to say thank you and
Thank you.
Go LCCC.
Appreciate it. Okay. All right, anybody else? Okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of quick remarks with your permission.
Sure.
First of all, I do want to send out 2 thank yous. The first thank you is to Trustee Kaiser and Trustee Little for the work and the hours that they put into actually getting us to this stage. So Brenda, and if John were here, I would extend this to him as well. Thank you for the work that you did on behalf of the college. The other one is I just want to say thank you to Scott Sauter and Cassie in the PR division. They were the ones who put together this new process and the new site in literally, what, Vicki, a week or two? To get us ready to have a mechanism for you to be able to navigate as we do policies and procedures and things like that. So Lisa passed that along to them, but they did wonderful work under a very short time frame, and we certainly appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, I have been in conversation with Dr. Smith and Dr. Boggs, and they've asked, okay, now what? What's next? And you may be asking the same. This was the fundamental step in transitioning governance models and establishing your governance policies. But I'll be honest, outside of this, we have work to do, and I think some of the things that you are truly interested in are the policies associated with key functions of the institution, and then for us, guiding our development or improvement of the procedures. We've heard the conversation about budget development, budget process. There's been considerable conversation about student fees and the genesis behind there, academic program approval, human resource issues, all of those things. So I might ask for your guidance. We have sort of two steps that we could take through this. One, we could, as administration, take a look and start moving all of the policies and procedures that we've been functioning under as an institution into this new manual and bring them forward to you in a bulk to take a look at and say, okay, here you want to go. Some of those are very, I won't say benign, but they're sort of no-brainers. They're things that either the federal legislation tells us to do, they're things we just simply have to have. The other option, and the one I might lean towards and suggest, there seems to be considerable interest of you as trustees to look at certain areas in regards to policy. And the fees is one that comes to my mind. Student fees, as you know, are approved administratively. I don't know that you've had a conversation about the approval, the establishment, the monitoring, or the oversight of any type of fee systems. That certainly is a policy conversation that would make sense. Budget development, budget approval, employee classification. We have Dr. Smith and Dr. Boggs on contract, and they have, we sort of started with the idea that we would bring them back in the fall to facilitate some type of summation retreat focused on governance and then help us set the stage. I'm wondering if you would agree that it might be useful to have them back and go through a conversation and triage what are the most important policies from your perspective as trustees that we should start working on and adding to this. What are those things that you believe we don't necessarily have clear guidance on or policy on as a board that we should work on first? And that would give us at least some marching orders of where we should focus our time and move those over. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd love some direction.
Okay, Kevin, go ahead.
Another possibility is if you have some sort of a roadmap for what are the most important policies and procedures to proceed with, that we start down that roadmap, and when we run into problems somewhere along the way, we'll make note of that, and if need be, we can bring Boggs and Smith back again at that late date. That's just my thinking. Surely you have some sort of a roadmap, and we don't have to do it all at one time. You can put together the most critical things right away. We can approve those and go from there.
Okay, anybody else? How's that sound, Joe?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I certainly believe I have priorities and know there are things we need to be working on. I think, but not positive, that they are in line with the areas that you are interested in doing that. We can certainly do that. We can bring those priority ones and just start moving them forward and take them in. You know, they'll come to you anywhere from 5 to 10 at a time, and work on them that way.
Okay. Vicki, what do we have on our schedule for the October study session? I don't know if we have anything very specific. Right, which will take prior. Joe, I think this is a great time, and hopefully, again, I do put time pressure on you a lot, but maybe you can take a first swipe at it. Maybe it's just 5 things. I think you already took a swipe at it, Joe. Quite frankly, we'll look at the minutes, but I saw some of the areas that we probably would be interested in right away.
Mr. Chairman, I will do my best. I am looking at a few days where I will be out of the office.
Okay.
At least I was planning on it until those remarks. So I don't know how much time I will have between now and October 3rd.
Okay.
But I believe, you know, in all seriousness, the vice presidents and folks have been doing a lot of work to bring some of these forward. I think we do have quite a few that we could put before you for that night, and I think that would be that would be appropriate.
I won't give you guidance as to who, but why don't you delegate that, and let's get a list up at our next meeting, and let's just dive right in, is what I prefer to do. So, board?
Craig?
Yes, ma'am.
Craig, first I want to say thank you to Joe for all his help and insight in the new governance model. And I would offer up my help, Joe, if you need me or need any help from me in the next few weeks helping draft new policies, just let me know. I'm there.
Okay. And I guess our expectations are not necessarily for the policies, but give us a chance to and you throw out what you think are the most important things. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I trust your judgment, and bring that forward, and we'll help get it going. I just don't see any reason for hesitation here. So, yes. That's fine. Okay, so let's tackle that, and Brenda offered some help, but like I said, my expectations are not to see policies necessarily, but to say, here's the important things, and maybe we have a discussion about those.
Yeah, and Mr.
And you can get our input on the upfront side, and I think that we're moving towards that kind of mode of operation, which I think is the way it ought to be. Get our input up front, so you're not going down the wrong path, and we shift gears later on. So.
And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I think I can work with that. And in many ways, there are questions that may be more appropriate at your study session that I could bring forward. One was raised tonight under new policy. What is the threshold of budget expenditures that you believe require trustee approval? What would you feel comfortable delegating here? We need to have a conversation about your 3 board rules that are published and new HR policies that we've been talking about. So I think we could put together a series of questions that would facilitate good conversation, that would give us guidance in crafting policy to bring to you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Do I get concurrence?
Yeah, just so one other part there. It would seem to me we might also talk about something relative to the impact of academics here as we look at making some changes for the completion. There may be some things in those policies that you might throw at us that's consistent with our board goals.
And Mr. Chairman, Trustee Mosher, thank you for that softball. Nicely pitched. Yes, in fact, there are a couple of things that are on my mind in light of the conversation yesterday. As a board, have you, for example, considered and thought about defining what you mean by an Associate of Arts, an Associate of Science, an Associate of Applied Science? Do you believe that there are certain ranges or parameters of which you can expect those degrees to fall within? And it's a worthy conversation. Some may say, no, we don't necessarily. And you would say, well, a 60-credit associate degree is fine, 72 is fine, but I would wager that if I got to 92 or 100, you might say, not so much. Those are wonderful academic conversations. We need to have those, because without that policy, we're trying to identify with what the commission has talked about and with what other folks have spoken about to wrap parameters around the development of the programs for, by the way, you confer degrees. So I think there are quite a few academic conversations we need to have.
Okay. So, concurrence?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. All right. Very good. Okay, we have one last approval item.
We haven't approved that.
Oh, we haven't. Did we?
We have to vote.
No, we did vote.
We did vote.
We did vote. I just let Joe do
Okay.
run on comments.
Sorry.
Which is absolutely appropriate. Okay, lastly, H, selection of ACT voting delegate and alternate. I believe, and I don't know who else is going, but the ACCT American, uh-oh, you guys get it.
Mr. Chairman.
Association of whatever. Okay, ACCT Annual Community College Leadership Congress is on October 10th through the 13th. It's in Boston, I believe.
Yes.
We need to have a voting delegate and an alternate. Who's going? Bill? And John. Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'd ask
Mr.
Bill.
Chairman,
Yes.
this is Brenda. I move that John Kaiser be our delegate and Bill Dubois be our alternate.
Okay.
I'd second that.
Got a second? Okay. Any discussion? Discussion. If none, let's take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. Thanks you guys for taking the effort to go and so on. Okay, my gosh. If we get out of here at 8:30, my wife's gonna kiss me, which will be not unusual,
Been
but
a long time.
yeah.
Is this a reality show?
Yes. Any public comment on anything we've talked about today? I welcome that. If not, I will move forward with a few additional items, information only. There is some information that you can get, September 2012 contracting procurement, historical list of board motions, etc. Next meetings, we do have a study session on October 3rd on Wednesday. Prior to the study session, it will start at about 5:30, will be trustee orientation and dinner. Okay?
The Bochis meeting is 3:30 in this room.
Okay, and then
Is that right?
a Bochis informational meeting, that would be Monday. Okay, and then October 19th, again, is our regular board meeting. Anything else any trustees would like to discuss? Anything else that the public would like to discuss? If not, I'm gonna really enjoy doing this. We're adjourned.